I used to take the train out of Chestnut Hill down to Philadelphia. I was a member of the Art Museum and the Benjamin Franklin Institute. And I love Philadelphia. I'm going to blow this, though, in a way, because I have a short story or two to read, and then I'll try and switch to some poems. But I wanted to read this one. This is called The Philadelphia Story. I worked in a bookstore in Reading, Pennsylvania when I was in college. It was quite different from a New York City bookstore. We sold furniture, school supplies, and an interesting assortment of snacks. I did my best to make the stock we carried respectable. I ordered Joyce, Beckett, and Updike, who lived in Shillington, a suburb of Reading, in his youth. Most of our customers just wanted a fast read. I sympathized, but pushed my favorite authors on them anyway. The owner would take me aside and tell me to cut it out. I'd shrug my shoulders and he'd hiss, "Only bums do that." I didn't like him very much. There was a lot of dead time. Reading was not a reading city. I had to do that, sorry. So I would flip through the art books and look at the color plates to get through the long afternoons. I discovered the Surrealists, and that's when my life changed. I made up my mind that someday I would be part of a circle of writers and artists just like them. And then, by logical extension, I stumbled upon the Dadists. Marcel Duchamp became my idol. I devoured his works, The Bride Stripped Bare, and You Descending a Staircase, and The Chocolate Grinder. I read that a number of his pieces were in the Philadelphia Museum of Art, in the Ahrensburg collection, and that his final work, given 1, The Waterfall, 2, The Illuminating Gas, a mixed media assemblage consisting of a wooden door surrounded by bricks concealing something, was there too. But I couldn't find an illustration or description of what was behind it anywhere, so I knew I would have to go to the city of brotherly love and check it out in person. I had a little wine earlier, I'm so sorry. My parents lived outside of Philly in the house I'd grown up in. I went down to see them and made plans to visit the museum. Unfortunately, when I did manage to get there, the wing of the museum with the Ahrensburg collection in it was closed to the public due to budget cuts. A fiscal crisis had swept across the nation and hit Philadelphia hard. The Museum of Art is like a large C, basically 2 wings jutting out from the main building, and they only had enough money to guard 1 wing at a time. I'd have to return when the side of the museum I wanted to see was open. Deeply disappointed, I took the commuter train back up to Chestnut Hill and hitched a ride, you could do that back then, to where I was staying with my parents. On a day I knew the wing of the museum I wanted to see should be open, I headed back into Center City. It was raining lightly when I left home, and I took an umbrella figuring that everything would work out okay. I take the train in, make my way over to the Benjamin Franklin Parkway, and then walk along the 6-lane highway a half a mile or so to where it ends at the rocky steps of the Philadelphia Museum of Art. No problem. But there was a problem. By the time I got into the city, the rain had picked up and turned into a gale. I could see the parkway about half a block in front of me, but my umbrella blew inside out, and the rain was now gusting at me in horizontal torrents. I literally couldn't move forward. So I stood in the lee of a large tree, totally deflated. My clothes were soaked, my shoes were covered with mud, and I couldn't imagine how I was going to get home. I'd probably still be there, but for a minor miracle. From out of nowhere, a bus pulled up next to my tree, the doors swooshed open, and the driver waved me inside. I gratefully complied. Once I got in, I exhaled deeply and examined my surroundings. Every seat on the bus was occupied by an elderly, white-haired lady. "We told them to stop and pick you up," a woman sitting in the front explained, giggling a little. "You seem to be stuck." "Man," I said, "I was. I am so grateful. Thank you, all of you." "Where are you going?" another lady asked. "Well, I was hoping to make it to the art museum. That seems to be out of the question now." "No, it's okay," a third chimed in. "Driver, take them to the museum." It's all true. We have lots of time before we have to return to our residence, and so we did. He let me off at the rear entrance and I ducked inside. It was still raining, but not as hard. The museum halls were deserted. The weather had taken its toll. I made my way to the nearest men's room where I chucked my broken umbrella. This particular restroom had one of those old-fashioned cloth towel dispensers to dry your hands on, the kind that seemed to be an endless loop of clean white material. I simply kept pulling out portions of towel to dry my hair, my shirt, my pants, and my muddy shoes. I guess I felt kind of guilty when I got to the shoes, but no one came in to use the facility. So I continued until I used up the entire roll. After I dried out a bit, I exited into the museum, aiming towards the right wing, which was to my left, and which was, as I had hoped, open. I walked through the Ahrensburg collection where Duchamp's paintings and constructs were displayed, checking them out in cursory fashion as my eyes were focused on the prize. The building was still empty. I passed only one or two guards and finally reached a dead end. In this room there was a large wooden farm door, though in truth it was more like a castle gate. It was made of thick planks surrounded by a stone archway. When I walked up to it, I noticed two tiny holes had been drilled in the middle. I looked through them and saw the most wonderful sight. It was a naked female mannequin, her face obscured by the broken bricks framing the scene, reclining in a field of fake grass, holding aloft a tiny gaslight which was lit. Behind this tableau was a painted landscape depicting a waterfall. It was obviously an appropriation of the Statue of Liberty, Duchamp's cry for real freedom in the land of the not-so-free. It was not only a tremendous work of art, what he had done was truly funny. I cracked up, laughing out loud. A guard rounded the corner with a stern look on his face and wondered what was up. "I've just seen God," I told him, and left the room. Hoping it was about 5 or 6 minutes. I'm not good at that. Hope Springs Eternal, or the reincarnation of Andy Warhol's soul. I will get to poetry, I promise. There was a slight disturbance among the potato chips in a pink Tupperware bowl sitting on a wooden picnic table. None of the Baptists at the family reunion in Fort Wayne, Indiana noticed. Now this particular disturbance is not man-made, nor is it an act of nature. It is, in fact, the awakening of Andy Warhol's reincarnated soul. What the hell, Andy thinks, a potato chip? I silk screened Monroe for this? The guys at the factory practically assured me I'd come back as the hippest thing possible. But a potato chip? Now it's nitpicking in the extreme, but we should note that Andy Warhol returned as a Pringle, not as a real potato chip. A detail that would have delighted him in his previous incarnation. The afternoon wears on, and one by one his companions disappear. Lou, Holly, baby Jane, Viva, and yes, even little Edie, until Andy is the only chip remaining. Please let me come back as a roll of aluminum foil next time he prays, as the shadow of a large, calloused Baptist hand blots out the sky above. Oh, heck, just a short one. Fame by association. Stranded in Spain without any change in his pocket, Taylor Mead asked Andy Warhol to wire him the $100 he was owed so he could fly back home. "Sorry," Andy replied, "but you got way more than your money's worth simply by being in my proximity." These are all about famous people.
Is that the true story, Ron?
Yeah. That's I can't make stuff up. I wish I was. This one's called Bird and Me. I read somewhere that Charlie Parker ate a rose. I think it happened after a long flight to Denmark or France. A delegation of important dignitaries approached him on the runway and offered him a fancy bouquet as a gift. I figure he must have been both tired and pumped up a little after such a long flight, so popping the flower into his mouth probably seemed like the perfect thing to do. Way to fuck with the squares and further embellish his legend at the same time. Years later, in a far different corner of the world, I ate a flower too. I was drinking in Rosinante, a neighborhood bar in Soho, trying to win back the love of my ex-wife. As we chatted, I got so nervous I downed at least 6 White Russians. In that state, I told her, "I'm going to do what Bird did to show you how much I still care." And I plucked the flower out of the vase that was on the table between us and stuffed it into my mouth. It was chewy at first. Then a sharp chemical taste kicked in. I found out later they spray those things. Shaking, I sprinted to the bathroom and became violently sick. I can't remember ever feeling worse. I really thought that something had broken inside me. My ex-wife leaned in the door to ask if I was okay, and I grabbed it. Yeah, she said she had to split. She'd had a lovely evening, but had to work tomorrow. How am I doing on time?
I'm not timing it.
Oh, please time me. No, I'm joking. Okay, this is kind of a little hardcore, but this happened recently. I'll just read 2 more poems. This is called 8th Street Station. I met you at the Gray Gallery across from Washington Square Park. We were going to the opening of the Radical Front, Radical Art in the Red Decade. We ate all the peanuts and most of the chips that were set out as snacks and drank way too much wine, which seemed to annoy the NYU students who were serving us. They gave us dirty looks but didn't actually say anything. I left you and walked over to Broadway to get an R train home. Still pretty buzzed. That's a subway train, sorry. Inside the station, I went to the downtown end like I always do to sit on the wooden bin that's been there for years. I think it's a wooden bin that has sand in it for when weather gets bad, but it has been there for years. But this time I couldn't. It was covered with trash. So I stood on the platform and waited for a train. A razor-thin tranny, sporting a long blonde wig, nose ring, and high-heeled boots walked over to the mess, glared at it, then furiously swept it away with her hands flinging styrofoam cups and sandwich wrappers at everyone standing nearby. I didn't mean to stare, but her sudden rage took me by surprise. "Don't look at me, bitch," she screamed. "Do you want to get pushed in front of a train and die?" She yanked a bottle from her jacket pocket and smashed it against the wall just like in the movies, spraying glass everywhere, and dared me to attack her. I looked in my bag for my umbrella, which I figured I'd use as a weapon if I had it. It's a pathetic life. Just then a train pulled into the station. I got on, turned, and shouted, "I was on the wrestling team in high school," Springfield Township High School. But I couldn't finish the sentence before the doors closed. I looked out the window as the train left the station and saw her sitting on the wooden bin lighting a cigarette. I'll just do one more poem.
You have like 5 minutes or more. I haven't been timing, but
okay, well, I'll do
at least 5 minutes.
It's another subway poem. This one's called Astor Place Station. I just dropped off some consignment stuff at St. Mark's Bookshop and had 15 minutes to make it to Grand Central Station, where I'd be late for work. I got to the ornate Astor Place entrance to the Uptown Local and froze. A sea of commuters poured up the steps and broke around me like a wave on the beach. I just missed the train. I paid my fare and walked up the empty platform. As I approached the garbage bins at the north end of the station, I passed the Kolm and came face to face with a dude who was breathing heavily, his back to the tracks. I realized what was up right away. An idiot that I am pointed it out to him. "Hey, you just jumped the rails and crossed the tracks. What's up with that?" I said, smiling to show I was hip. "I don't want to hurt you," he said, staring right through me. "Well, no problem," I said nervously. "I'm cool. I'm not going back to prison," he continued, unblinking. "I'm down with that," I said, my mind racing like a cockroach when you turn on the lights. "Do you like the Yankees?" he asked, stunning me. "Well, no, but I do like the Mets a bit," I answered stupidly, given the situation. "I don't want to hurt you," he said again, squaring his shoulders and striding off towards the distant exit. I looked down the platform and saw figures with flashlights searching the tracks. I was getting later and later for work, but I didn't know what to do. I'd made it through the 60s and I didn't want to betray a brother to the man, so I just stood there. A number 6 train moving very slowly finally pulled into the station, and I got on and sat down, shaking a little. Across from me, leaning against the door, was the biggest transit cop I'd ever seen, with a tiny full moon of a face, all out of proportion. I wanted to ask him what had happened at the station we were leaving behind. But I figured if it had been something really bad, I'd be a material witness, so I kept my mouth shut and went to work. I'll do one more. Oh, God. It was about my ex-wife. She was a Reading girl. Oh, God, I'm an idiot.
You're right. Did she read, Bob?
Did she pardon?
Did she read?
Did she read?
Yeah, was she reading?
Oh, reading. No, she was the one who was actually, I met her when I was in college, and she was into poetry, and I decided I was going to write poetry. That's what started all this. No, she was actually a poet. I was a fool. I'm going to shut up. Let's see if this is a newer one. And I'll end with this one. Thank you. Badlands. We'd been constantly fighting for weeks as we drove across the United States in a pickup truck. This trip was supposed to be a vacation, but we were definitely not having fun. Every question started an argument. Should we drive through Canada? Should we avoid Chicago? Should we spend time with friends in Colorado? Again and again, we almost called it quits and split up. We made it through Denver and headed north towards the Badlands, where we turned west, aiming for California. One of our main goals was to visit a friend who dodged the draft and been caught. He was now doing time in Lompoc, a federal prison south of San Francisco. The Badlands were both beautiful and dangerous. The highway we were on had been cut through an endless series of ridges, and the jagged edges came right down to the shoulder of the road. A couple of miles in, we got hit by a blizzard. The sky disappeared into a thick white cloud. I couldn't see anything. The truck skidded out of control and spun off the road. I thought we'd crash into a wall of rocks, wrecking the truck and killing us for sure, but that didn't happen. The pickup bounced down the side of a slope into an unexpected clearing and finally came to a stop. I turned off the engine, and we looked at each other, stunned and relieved, though our cat, who'd been with us the entire trip, had jumped down and was now hiding under the seat. We hugged each other, and the cat leaped back onto your lap. I turned the engine on and slowly eased the truck back onto the highway, proceeding towards the nearest exit, about 10 miles an hour. We checked into the first motel we saw and made love all night long. A month later, we finally made it to Lompoc, a fortified series of low buildings in the far distance, protected by barbed wire and closed-circuit video. I pulled up to a screen, mounted on a kiosk, and told it who we wanted to visit. The screen told us to beat it, which we immediately did, certain we were in a sniper's sight. Thank you.
Come back here.
The fame game. You have this need to be famous, my therapist said, but I think you should get a job first. If you look at all the famous people, they all had jobs. You have to start from somewhere. Otherwise, you'll just be famous inside your own head, but so is everyone else. The benefits of ignorance. If ignorance is bliss, Father said, shouldn't you be looking blissful? You should check to see if you have the right kind of ignorance. If you're not getting the benefits that most people get from acting stupid, then you should go back to what you always were. Too smart for your own good. Down by the sea. When I was young, I thought the condoms I found on the beach, she said, were dead jellyfish. When I brought them home, my mother took one look at them and threw them out. I wasn't allowed to go to the ocean by myself anymore. She was afraid of what it could show me. The starting point. In the beginning were the words, I love you. At the end was the vernacular, you pissed me off. We used to go to the ocean to symbolically cast away our sins. Now the ocean comes to us in the display of dead fish at the supermarket. If I was Jonah and you were the whale, will you spit me out, even though you're opposed to spitting in public? For obvious health reasons. what we did not do. Let us not make love, but say that we did, she said. That way we will get the most difficult part of the relationship over with. That's a true story.
I wish you're right.
Back on the farm. I grew up on a farm, she said. I used to get up early to milk the cows. When you squeezed my breast, remind me of that time. But instead of it being a pleasant memory, you made me feel like I'm the cow. She took me to the petting zoo. The only bad thing was I had to wait in line with all the other animals. Oysters. The world is your oyster, but if you have to use a hammer to crack the shell, there's a good chance that what you find inside might be damaged. The sail. I would have given her my heart if she had believed I had one. But she accused me of selling mine to the devil. I said, you sell your soul, not your heart. She said I'd probably sell both to get the better bargain. Do not pray for material things, Mother said, like a new football helmet. God doesn't like that. Save him for a bigger thing. Like one of us gets very sick. The way to get on his good side is to ask for gentle things like health and happiness, and tell him he does not have to give them to you now. He'll take them in the future. Eyes are everywhere. Now that you're getting older, Mother said, you have to wear a jockstrap. Like your father when you go to the beach. You might look at a girl leaning over in a bathing suit and suddenly get a boner. You can't always hide it by running into the ocean. Some people can see underwater. Timing. After we made love, we went out for dinner. I tried not to eat my linguine faster than her. I figured that if we couldn't have a simultaneous orgasm, we could at least finish eating at the same time. Imagination. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, Father said. This is why we did not name you Jack. He chose Harold It means life in Hebrew. Hayam. Please show more signs of it. It's too late to change the name. Taking the sex out. I stay inside my room and play the Rolling Stones. I can get no satisfaction. Help me deal with my sexual frustration. Mother would stick her head inside the room and say satisfaction can also be attained by helping her clean the house. She kept trying to take the sex out of rock and roll. I kept trying to put it back in. I gave her my heart. She gave me a melted tuna fish sandwich. Thinking back, I got the better bargain. She gave me a condom, but by the time I opened it, I wasn't able to use it. Then a little later, I saw her cat playing with it. I was glad someone got some use out of it. Blocking the game. I fell in love while sitting across from her on the train. Whether she felt for me, I doubted, because she seemed to be in a rush. She put on sunglasses so my gaze couldn't penetrate her eyes. So penetration must have been the last thing on her mind. I could see uncooked chicken legs popping out of a shopping bag. She rode my body as if it were a horse. Unfortunately, she dismounted before the ride was over. That's a haiku. A non-nature one. My version of it. You told your friend that we were lovers, but I only remember sharing a cheese pizza with you, and you took the bigger half. Planned child. I didn't get a good grade in my biology class. Mother read my report card and wanted me to know I was a planned child. My father and she really wanted me. Therefore, I should be doing a lot better in school than students who were accidents. I didn't quite understand her logic. But I remember going to school the next day looking at my classmates and wondering who was an accident and who was planned. It was hard to tell. I still can't tell. So I'm not going to ask for a count. Even the nose isn't free from hate. Having a long nose doesn't mean you're Jewish, Mother said. Look at Pinocchio. He wasn't Jewish. The length of his nose meant he was lying. But our noses don't mean a thing, except when strangers point at them and make fun of us. Then that means we're in the wrong part of town. Sons, with Jewish father said, so we don't believe in Christ. If God wanted us to worship Jesus, He would have arranged for us to be born into an Italian family. I have nothing against him. He was probably a very nice man. You had to give him credit for trying. A lot of people still believe he's the Son of God. I don't know what he had against his real father. But you ever did that to me. So you were someone else's son, I'd be insulted. I got in a lot of trouble for that song. I never knew what the other kids brought to school lunch until they opened their lunch boxes. The moment I walked into class, everyone knew what I had. I had a sardine sandwich. No one wanted to sit next to me in the cafeteria. It smelled up the whole room. How much time do I have?
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, I'll finish up. I cannot kill myself, Mother said, because it is prohibited by Jewish law. So I'm relying on you to do it for me. And you've been doing a good job. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I don't know if anyone wants to take a little break. I think there's some people who want to move into the room.